This is the last one. We're saving the best for last here. This is Keith from Branta. Keith, how's it going tonight? How are you doing?
I'm well, Car. Man, thank you for having me. This is a crazy schedule you've been running on. Very, very impressed with all of it.
Oh, thanks, dude. You guys make it really easy. I love working with all the top builders. You are so professional, more professional than me. And so I really have learned a lot from y'all in multiple aspects. But most importantly, I can't wait to talk about your project. So walk us through Branta. Walk us through like what you're building and then where the idea came from, Keith. Because when you first told me about it, I kind of freaked out, to be honest. And then the more and more I got to know you, I'm like, no, he cares. He's doing it for everybody. So yeah, kind of walk us through it, Keith.
Yeah, no. Well, that's a great intro. So Branta, why am I doing this in the first place, and what is this thing? So, Branta is only here to help you keep your Bitcoin, period. And the way I look at the Bitcoin space is we haven't had guardrails or any helping hand really in custody since the inception of Bitcoin, like no parallel to antivirus or anything. And people kind of need this. And the first time I realized this was when I was at home hacking on my node, and I just realized there was just no protections against malware, spyware, viruses, or anything. And I said, all right, I kind of can see this angle here. I can code. Let me take a stab at this. And so the platform that I was initially most comfortable with was Mac. And so this is the Branta website that the audience can see here. It's branta.pro. And on the right it's really just the first iteration of our UI. So this is just me so far doing the design, the coding, and the product. But what you're looking at here, and we'll pull it up live in a second, is the software running on a Mac. It's just a screenshot. And what Branta does is automatically scan your computer for wallets. And then what it will do is just run a quick checksum and see if that checks out against the author's PGP verified checksum. And if it does, you get the check mark. And if not, you get a red exclamation point. And so to illustrate here, the Whirlpool GUI and Ledger Live would be instances of wallets that have been tampered with and potentially compromised. And to me, like, I love talking about Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin myself. But I thought, how does this not exist? Like, why is everybody running software that they may or may not have validated? And, the more and more Bitcoiners that I talk to, guys that you would know the names of from Bitcoin Twitter and podcasting, most of them are like, what's PGP? I haven't run this. And so it kind of became obvious this was a use case that was needed. And so this core product is free. We're initially supporting 6 wallets. It's fully out on Mac. I think on Windows we have 4 of them so far, but we'll finish out the last 2. The code's open source, and this is really meant to just help the world. And so what's cool too is if we go to bitcoin.org, I don't know if I've really talked about this publicly, but this is kind of an Easter egg here. So if you go to avoid scams, and if you go to malware, one of the very first things that's listed here is the clipboard attack. And so I think it's pretty cool that, like, in my eyes, Branta solves this forever. So this whole section is kind of deprecated. I think at some point I'll probably open an issue on the bitcoin.org GitHub and let them know that, hey guys, Branta fixes this. But Car, back to you.
No, I think you're hitting on something right there. Can you scroll back up real quick? So we've seen this time and time again. I don't know if you have Ledger supported or not, but I know Ledger has been hacked multiple times, right? And it's similar from an email. Maybe it gets something that gets downloaded. It's scary. I think I remember telling you at the time, I was like, I feel like we're opening up Pandora's box. And believe it or not, I mean, whether you want to open it up or not, it's there. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, no. One of the things that has surprised me is how many cold outreaches I've had from strangers on the internet that are Googling antivirus Bitcoin or even antivirus altcoin. And these guys are emailing me and saying, hey, I just lost 25 grand, 30 grand on a fake Sparrow wallet. And literally, these are just people sitting at home, just, trying to make a trade, trying to make a buck, save money, whatever. And maybe this came to them through an email, but they download software and it completely rugs them. And having Branta would, we have to illustrate this a bit more. And it is kind of like opening Pandora's box, but having Branta really, really fixes that. And so, yeah, like one of the other things that has struck me is like how heavy this field is, because I've had strangers contact me, but then also friends and friends of family members call me and have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars through Coinbase even. So yeah, it's definitely a very, very heavy product to be building. I think maybe building on Nostr or Lightning that's heavy in different ways. This one is particularly nasty because like I have to look at malware that is out there in the wild. And installing this is very challenging because do you really want to install malware on your computer to test something? The answer is no, like not really, unless if you have like a quarantined like sandbox environment or like a throwaway PC. But like you don't want to download these fake wallets onto your Mac because when you download Sparrow, you can be pretty sure from GitHub or Craig's website that the code is what you see on GitHub if you PGP authenticate it, right? So like you match the signatures up and install, and you don't install unless if those match from the beginning. So that would mean like if you trust Craig and you trust the dependencies that he uses, like you can probably use Sparrow safely. And so that's good. But even so, here with Branta, like there's a lot more vectors under the hood there with Craig's app, which is great. Like I love Sparrow, and that was really the first wallet that we did this for. And Craig also was the guy who kind of pushed me toward open source, and that's proved to be a great decision. I think Branta will percolate fast throughout this year, but like the trust will take time to build. And so, yeah, I mean, right now we can do a demo here in a minute, but there's a lot more to build with Branta as well, because really, like when you have something like Sparrow, there's layer upon layer of technologies that are used to like actually get down to your signing device to get your private key to sign and broadcast a transaction. And so right now, yeah, I guess we can dive into a demo, but yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
more to.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think for most people that are listening or watching from home, that they don't know this about Bitcoiners, especially developers, is like they do that what you just described. They run those checksums. There's been so many times here in the lab, and I'll be like, dude, what's taking so long? And it's like, oh, I have to do this. And so I think what you're bringing to the masses potentially is that type of I don't know what you call that. It's just that kind of thing that most developers do. Most people who take this stuff really seriously do, and I don't think the mass majority of us Bitcoiners do that. Could be wrong, but
Yeah, it's time that we do though, and it's really time that this is not that it is automated in a GUI that you can trust. You can look at Bronta's code, and instead of going on the command line and doing all the GPG stuff, right? Like we don't want to do that, but anybody can go and do this, right? So if we download Sparrow here, bam, you can drag and drop it. Okay, this file matches up, and then you would go and install, right? And so this sort of workflow is very, very easy. That took 1 second. All I did was drag and drop the file. And now I know this Sparrow is authentic without going on the command line.
and yeah, and Keith, and so once this is installed, at the very top, I think you have a Branta running in the background, right? What is it doing at that point?
Yeah, right. So Bronta's running in the background here. Let me see. So I think Sparrow's going to load. Yeah, so in the top icon here, we have the little golden bee, and that just lets us know that, okay, status is active. So Bronta's running and you're protected. And there's kind of an open source antivirus engine running in the background. And in fact, we can go into the preferences here and see what's going on under the hood. And so for this core product right now, what's released is kind of two components. The first is for clipboard notifications. And so what I think is really cool here is when I go to log in for Branta or a personal Nostr account, if I copy a private key, I'll have a notification slide over and say, hey, there's a Nostr private key in your clipboard, just so you know. And I think that's a really nice reminder, because maybe I'm going to paste onto like some group message by accident, or it's just nice to know that there's a key in my clipboard. And what's really nice is if I'm going to transact on Bitcoin, I can see, okay, a Bitcoin address just hit my clipboard. And then if in the meantime their malware comes and tampers with me, I'll get another notification. And if I see a notification that I personally did not copy and paste, I'm going to know that some software is trying to rug me and actually swapped out my clipboard content.
That's crazy, but it's totally possible.
It's totally possible. I mean, Bitcoin.org lists it. And that's why I said, hey, let me just solve this and let me give it away for free. So this top part I think is cool. You can turn these on and off. If you don't want these notifications, that's fine. We won't alert. And this persists, over shutdown and restart. And then on the bottom is kind of the engine for verifying wallets. So what I did before was I drag and drop this right before installing Sparrow, and then I double clicked the disk image, and all I did was drag and drop it, right? So now Sparrow's on the computer, and I have Branta scanning every 10 seconds to make sure that the checksum is authentic and checks out and hasn't been tampered with. And so basically, if one bit in that software changes, or 100 bits or 100 bytes or whatever, that could be malicious code, right? That could be calling out to some server. That could be just replacing an address. It could be doing all sorts of fancy things. It could just be leaking your XPub or leaking your IP address. So these are all vectors that you got to be watching out for. But when you see this guy here, the check mark, you can be pretty sure that when you open Sparrow, like, all right, we're good to go here.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's really interesting. Where do you see this product going at without, I know you have talked to a lot of people, but where do you see Branta going later this year, if you could talk about any of it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, in developing this, I originally was going to just sell this for like $8 a month. I was just going to have a 7-day trial, temporary license. I already wrote the license server in Ruby. It's sitting on Heroku right now, and I wrote the licensed client as well. And then I didn't throw away the code, but that code is sitting on the shelf. And the reason for that was, one, I did feel very inspired by Craig Raw from Sparrow, because he has such a great point. Like, software wants to be free. And also, like, to be fair, this was not that hard to write. I think a lot of people could come in and kind of make a similar sort of product with the right idea. I think the vision extends a lot further, but basically this can benefit from community support. It should be free. The idea, I think, is great. So this lightweight core base product that you're seeing, this is always going to be free. And if people can adopt it if they think it's useful. We'll show them a bit more here in a minute. But then, the paid version of Branta has a lot of angles as well. So I think having compatibility, having deeper vision into the different layers, such as dependencies, even getting into firmware, looking at the USB bus. To me, like, if I'm going to be signing transactions from my stack, I'm going to write a tool for myself that is going to look at each of these layers and make sure, like, without a doubt, like, bit for bit, that I'm not getting hacked. Knock on wood. I built this product for myself, really. So yeah, it's going to take time, but that's some of my vision, Car.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, NBK talks about that a lot, right? He's like, I'm making this device for myself first, and because he wants to hold his Bitcoin on it. And for me, that's really great to hear. And it sounds like you're having the same kind of mission too as well. I think that's important for people that want to use your product to hear that.
Yeah, it is. And like, if you could know bit for bit parity, in that this is authentic and checking out, when you're handling like 5, 6, 7 figures of Bitcoin, like, why would you not have that?
That's a good point. So,
Yeah.
So, what else are you going to show us? Do you have one more thing to show us, or was that
Yeah,
it?
we can keep going a bit here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if the notifications are showing up here, but all right. So what just happened here? Let me let's do this too. Drag and drop Trezor over here. Let's see if this checks out. Okay, I didn't even verify this before the demo, but Trezor checks out. Let's just quickly install this wallet as well. So I know it's authentic, which is a huge leg up. Took me 1 second. Drag and drop. Cool. All right. Trezor's already there. Branta just picked it up on its 10-second cadence. And what's happening here, it's a little tough to see because I'm in Do Not Disturb. But over on the right, as soon as I open the Sparrow wallet, I don't even have to have the Branta window open. So I can just close this. Branta's running, right? It does show up in the dock. I think we're going to make this optional because I don't really want Branta in my dock. So I think we'll make that optional and just leave the B up here for Branta. But every time I focus on Sparrow, I get a notification slide in. And it tells me, hey, your Sparrow's legit. So I don't even have to have Branta open, and I can see that Sparrow's authentic. And then if I open Trezor, same thing. So watch the notifications. And when Trezor loads, it'll slide over, and Branta will tell me if I'm safe or if I'm unsafe to proceed. Okay, first time opening. Mac is using Gatekeeper. Check that out. So Trezor Suite is verified. I don't even have to have Branta in the foreground. And I know that when I'm going to sign my transaction or look at addresses or generate a new address, bam, the whole entire software is safe to use. And to me, that's worth a lot.
It's awesome. So let's get into your background, Keith. What have you worked on? What has set you up for creating Branta?
Yeah, that's a great question. I thought about this a bit more. And I think the more direct answer is a specific project and kind of mindset at Bloomberg. But I worked at Bloomberg for about, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. I worked in back-end development, mobile development, web development, a bunch of languages. I've interned around a bit as well before that. But what really caught my eye at Bloomberg was security and kind of dependency analysis. And so like whenever you're writing a web server, right, you pull in, maybe it's Ruby gems, maybe it's Node.js packages. But a lot of Ledger's problem this last year was with packages. I spend a lot of my time thinking about OPSEC and attack vectors. And so kind of what happened to Ledger's, they pull in so many packages with their JavaScript. And I didn't study this too in depth, but the vector is basically, third parties are security holes. And I don't know who's auditing these for these wallets. And so that was kind of like the first hook that came to my mind for Branta. Yeah.
That's great.
What else were you asking? Oh, what set me up for Branta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that, I think seeing fiat melt all around us made me realize like, okay, Bitcoin's it, but then, you can talk about anything you want. I think really battle testing the tech and getting it to billions of people is very hard. And that's where all of my focus is. And I think, if you go to like McAfee.com, everybody runs McAfee. I think everybody's going to run Branta too. It's just going to take a little bit more time to penetrate and then show the value. And then Branta will I think it'll be on most computers.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people wanted to check out Branta right now, where would they go, Keith? Can they download it right now, or do you have to wait?
Yeah, so head on over to Branta.pro. You don't have to wait. You can click download Branta for free. And then over here, you can do for Mac, you can do for Windows. Mac is cutting edge. I'm writing all the Mac basically every day. And the Windows is pretty close. So yeah, right now we're doing mostly like on-chain wallets, like base layer Bitcoin, but we're gonna attack Lightning next and work on security for that as well. Make that airtight for people.
Nice. And let's just talk about your experience during Top Builder. What have I know we were talking about before the show, but just for the people at home, was it like being a part of Top Builder with these other exceptional teams, and what's it like being being around Pleb Lab and my crazy self? So.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been so good. It's been so good. Better than any expectations. And honestly, it's been a unique experience for me because everybody here is focused on either Lightning, Bitcoin, or Nostr, which is amazing. I think the Pleb Lab environment is insanely cool. Carr, you are doing the exact right thing you need to be doing because you're amazing at it. And to be able to connect with John from Clams or, Dave from Resolver, and just chat with these other builders, right? Who are in adjacent lanes, but Branta is probably a little different in this regard. But to be able to talk to these builders every day, amazing. See each other's progress, super cool. I would recommend this to anybody. And I think, Car, I think your platform is going to be extremely successful. And when Branta gets to profit, whenever that is, like, we want to support you back as well.
Oh, dude, that'd be amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for saying that. I think the biggest thing, I said this multiple times during these kind of hacker streams, but we do this at the lab. Like, you know, it was myself and Keon and even Nifty and John from Zaprite and all these people. We all, even the Mutiny guys, we all like came up together at the same time. So we're always like asking each other for advice or like questions. And it's interesting, like seeing y'all come in at the same time and seeing that same kind of thing is like, it's beautiful to me. It's just like, I can't believe this is actually doing the same thing. And you guys are going to remember this like 3 years from now. Y'all all be like, oh, remember, like y'all all came from the same time. And to me, that's priceless. There's nothing like building your company alongside other people and then seeing your success from these other things. And I imagine this has always been the way Bitcoin has been. I just didn't know it like was that before I got involved. So that's the special thing that I love doing is, and for me, the last thing I would say is just like whoever wins Top Builder, like I'm going to be like, wow, I did not see that coming. Because from the first interview, kind of like what you said earlier, like you didn't even know you were going to apply and you did. And so like if Branta wins Top Builder, that would be like, what? Like, you know, kind of crazy. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're honored to be here. And it's funny too, because I remember our first conversation and, you know, Bitcoin security kind of turns heads because it's like, wait, you're like right on the edge of being malicious or beneficial to the community.
Yeah, totally. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Keith, and talking about Branta. One last time, where can people go and download it?
Yeah, head over to Branta.pro or find us on Twitter at BrantaOps. You can see kind of what the community's been responding with for feedback so far.
Awesome. And then finally, you, the listener at home, if you want to check out Keith, possibly he might make it to the final round. We don't know. If he does, though, you're going to be able to see him at the Bitcoin Commons on Thursday, March 14th, 2024. That's a few weeks away.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's crazy. If you want to come check that out, we have tickets available at pleblab.dev. If you want to just hang out and be a part of all this whole builder world experience, come to Austin during South by. There'll be tons of parties. You know, you'll be able to hang out with everybody. There's gonna be a live rabbit hole recap. Like, come on, it's gonna be a whole thing. Hang out at PlebLab, hang out at the Commons. It's gonna be a whole week of fun. This might be the year we actually take over South by Southwest and make it entirely orange. So come check us out. And then if you're also interested in checking out Branta, go to Branta.pro, download the app, and give it a shot. Free and open source antivirus for Bitcoin. Keith, thanks for coming on, dude.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Car. Class of 2024, top